Miles, thank you so much for joining us today. I sure appreciate your time, and I've been very much looking forward to visiting with you about The Good Mother since I finished watching the screener this weekend. And this film has got a little bit of everything: action, adventure, mystery, thrill. I mean, I'm just kind of on the edge of my seat the entire time trying to
Oh,
figure out
good, good.
what's going to happen next. I definitely want viewers and my readers to know exactly the timeline of this film because it's very interesting. You serve as the director, but also as one of the writers of the film. So, can you just kind of take us back in time a little bit and kind of start from the beginning and where this film came from, what the inspiration was, and kind of go from there?
Totally, yeah. Um, it's actually for as short as my career has been, it's been a really long time in the works. We Madison and I, is my co-writer and my best friend, who we grew up in Albany together, started making movies together when we were 8 or 9. When we were on the set of our first film, As You Are, it was 2015, and a lot of there were a lot of people that we knew who were dying from fentanyl and opioids. And at that point, we weren't even sure fentanyl. People knew about it, but it wasn't like thing people were really talking about.
Yeah.
And so it was something that was really in the air, and the election was coming up, and there was just sort of this feeling of paranoia, you know what I mean, and fear. And from where we were sort of sitting, we were seeing the kind of the human detritus of that, you know what I mean? Not just the people who were dying themselves, but also the families that were sort of left in the wake of that. And that first film was took place in Albany, and we always wanted to make more films about our hometown because it's a really special place to us. And so this idea of a sort of noir about a mother, you know what I mean? Noir was one of our favorite genres, and is a genre that, coming out of World War II, is really about where is the world morally, and sort of what is the center of truth right now. And a lot of it is characters trying to just figure out one piece of information that can be called true, you know what I mean, in a world that's like completely spinning off axis. And we thought that there were a lot of similarities to that. Rise of fascism, and so that, and wanting to have a mother who was sort of not the model grieving mother, you know what I mean, but this person who was in many ways paralyzed by what they had gone through, and sort of like their place within society. And what that sort of journey out of paralysis, even if it meant stepping into a world that was even harsher than the one that you thought you were hiding from. But that was sort of the angle on this kind of story, because we've seen so many movies about drug use, about drug addicts, about these things, and a lot of those movies I love. Some of them I think glorify or kind of romanticize it a little bit much, but this is really, we wanted to avoid all that and just look at the family, you know what I mean, and sort of not explicitly, but to use that sort of thing as a prism for what we're kind of going through as a culture.
Wow. Wow, man, that is such an in-depth answer. Thank you for that.
Oh, good.
I love it.
I've been
I love it.
practicing it.
No, no. You got the cue card set up off to the side there, but
Exactly. You just see it. So
no, I love it. Thank you so much. That's just fantastic. And just the idea that you were able to take all those things and just kind of bring them together with this film. I do have to ask, as far as casting goes, you've just got this fantastic cast with Hilary Swank and Olivia Cook and Jack and Hopper and all these people. They're in this film together. When you were kind of putting the script into form, I guess, final form, did you kind of have any of these people in mind, or did they kind of come in play later? What was kind of the place there that happened?
It was because there were so many different versions of the movie. We tried like many different routes to getting it made, from studio routes to more indie routes to very, very, very indie routes, which is how we ended up making the movie. And that always sort of like that's always so amorphous and nothing ever actually happens, that it's very hard to sort of know what time. I met with Hillary like 6 years ago for this, when we thought we were making it at one point, and then we ended up not making it. The one person who is a friend, and so she was, I mean, they're all friends now, but Olivia had been attached since the beginning. We share a manager and became really good friends around 2016. So she was the one that we sort of knew, okay, well, we have Paige, and that's like very lucky, because she's an actor that other actors want to work with, you know, and everyone's excited for, and it kept sort of feeling like, okay, now we also have Jack. Could we get Hilary Swank? You know, and it becomes a thing of like, all right, well, let's bring it up and see. And there's a party that goes, well, that'll never happen. You know, this is a little movie we're shooting in your hometown, like, you know, it's never gonna happen. And then all of a sudden she responded, and it was such a gift. You know, it's a really difficult role, and part of that is because, like I sort of alluded to before, it's about somebody who isn't mourning in the ways that we want to see people mourn, especially mothers, you know. And I think that can be difficult, is seeing a mother character who isn't reacting the way we want them to react about our death, or about, you know what I mean, something like that. But which I think is the reality of a lot of these situations, because it's so confusing. It's so complicated, and so sort of the blame is so dispersed. You know, there is no blame really, but and that, I think, is what was interesting about it to her, that it wasn't just like, okay, now you're going to play, you know, the really sad, crying, hysterical, you know, mother, which is, I think, what we see a lot when we're trying to trigger the immediate sympathy for the junkie in the character in the movies, you know what I mean? But I think that this allowed us to more tell a story about grief than about death, you know what I mean? And that was sort of what we wanted to do, take her out of, meet her in this place where she's been mourning the death of her son long before it ever happened, and she's stuck. And by the end of the movie, it's not that the world is better, the world is maybe worse in many ways, but at least she can take a step forward in this world, as opposed to being, you know, stuck. And, you know, to try to do something like that, like, you need somebody who is, I mean, it's like, it's crazy when you watch her like do scenes. Like, we would just like look at each other like, what? This is unbelievable. Like, no notes. Well, that's good. We can move on. You know, it's like watching a magician or something. It's really cool. It's like one of the like true privileges of my life has been able to watch the three of them work. You know, yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, you know, having these three leads as you do, was there an intimidation factor for you as a director coming in? Because, I mean, first off, I mean, just with Hilary Swank, I mean, you've got this award-winning actress at your fingertips, and you know, she's got her method. She's a very character-driven actress, and the way that she does things, and she really just immersed herself into this role. I mean, I didn't see any other of her characters appearing through the eyes of the character in this film, and it just kind of amazed me how in depth that she went into it. And you just, as you just said, you know, no notes, you know. So what was that like for you to kind of be behind the camera and offering director notes and anything like that to these actors?
It's definitely intimidating at first, you know, because there's a part of you that goes like, what does my opinion have any value in this situation? You know.
Yeah.
But then that's when you also have to realize, well, if you don't think your opinion has any value, then they're going to eat you alive. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to be working with somebody. I mean, some crazy people like to work with people who are afraid of them, but these are very much people who take it very seriously and are going to be completely honest, and need that in return, you know, because that is the sort of the bond and the agreement that you're making with something, like, you know. And for me, that's really important, the idea that people can feel their process or whatever is being respected. And that's something with Hillary, is she's worked with the best in every department. She's learned her own process. And I think that that's like something incredibly helpful that I couldn't have seen coming in a way, was that she can say, listen, I have this experience. I know how you can get the best out of me. And that to me was a realization of somebody who has that much experience working with the best in the world can do. They understand, and that's the gift they give you. They tell you, like, look, this is the combination to the lock. Now, if you use this combination right, it's all there. And that's something that comes with experience, though. That comes with like being one of the best ever, is to know yourself and to know that. So you're intimidated, but at the same time you feel the pull of people who want to be dancing, you know what I mean, who want to be working together. And that's so much fun. That's like when you can really dig into a scene and start kind of like between takes, like laughing openly and being like, that was really cool, but like, let's not do that. And and she's like, yeah, I didn't think you would like, that sort of thing is what makes a movie that's this budget tight, this time tight, this sort of like bearable, because otherwise it's tough.
And I do want to ask, because you do have some other films under your belt, but I've discovered that much like actors evolve throughout projects, directors do as well. So after the completion of this film, did you feel you had any new knowledge or methods, a new tool in your arsenal as well, whenever you go into the future, that you're looking forward to utilizing for your next project?
Oh, that's a very good question. Yeah. I don't know if I can so easily articulate what they are, but for me, learning, that's sort of the only intention, besides wanting to make the best film that I can. The only thing that I can bring to a movie and know for sure is these are the things I want to learn. That way, no matter what happens, because, we got incredibly lucky that there wasn't a strike or a shutdown while we were shooting, and like with COVID having just happened, like, that's really all. You can go into it and say, I want to try to learn this. Part of that was like very technical. Part of that was I want to learn how to move the camera this way. The biggest thing was I want to watch these actors and I want to learn how to direct actors better from that. And that was getting to watch that was really a privilege, but also wanting to do stuff with color that I hadn't sort of done before, with the DP, and finding ways of, there's these movies can oftentimes, or these kinds of movies can often have a very like blue, cold kind of like feel and aesthetic. And we wanted to switch that up and have warmth in there. And so there's things like that, I do the music also. So that was like a huge lesson for me, and I'd never done anything that had this many sort of like string instruments and mixing synths and stuff like that. So yeah, so many things. The movie taught me so many things.
Awesome. And I'm glad you brought up the music, because that was my next question. I wanted to learn a little bit more about your method in finding, the sound behind this movie, and, kind of why you decided to take that upon yourself, and the journey that you got to go on through the music side of the lens as well.
Well, so I've always done the music, like for my last two films also, and I always work with one other person, because I'm editing at the same time and stuff like that. So it's like, but for me, it's really important and it's really fun. I normally start making demos and stuff while I'm writing the script. Just to have something playing that feels specific to the world that I'm writing in. So like I'll have a playlist of like garbage that I've made that's just like within the kind of world of how I imagine it. And then I can play it on set, and that can tell us, speed or if there's certain things like that. But then more often than not, when you're in the edit, you realize that the movie needs something very different than what it needed to inspire you while you were writing, you know, especially with this film. This is like, there's a lot of genre requirements that come with the movie. Like, we need to deliver these scares, we need to do this, we need to, and that was something that was like a really fun challenge, because it wasn't really something that I had done before. You know, my films have always had moments of intensity, but are a little, you know, I don't know how to describe them. I just had, they're a little bit more ambient in the music and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Didn't have to deliver these like these beats so clearly. So then, yeah, so then it evolved, and then I got my buddy Eric Slick from Dr. Dog in, and I went to his studio in Nashville, and we worked for 3 days, and then I come home, and while we're finishing editing the movie, I like cut everything and kind of collage the score together, and it's a really, really, really fun process, and sort of like brings me back to life after editing.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Well, Miles, I know I'm fixing to run out of time here with you, but I definitely want to give you a chance to talk to audiences and just let them know where they can follow you, keep up with you, just so you can share what your new projects are. If they want to learn more about what you're up to and what's coming next, what's the best way for them to stay in contact with you, I guess?
On Instagram. That's the only social I really use. But yeah, the movie comes out September 1st. Yeah, I think, you know, it's kind of unbelievable that we're getting a theatrical run. It's so exciting. In this day and age, though, it's so rare. You know, we were really ready to not have one thing, you know. So to be able to be in theaters, for me, this is a movie that we really did design and shoot to be seen big and to hear, you know, big. So if it's playing in a theater near you, please go with 10 or 20 of your friends, you know. And also, we have, given, you know, given the actors strike and all that, it's just little old me here, and not the, you know, for very good righteous reasons that they shouldn't be. But what that means is that like people telling their friends to go see the movie is everything, you know. So if it's something that you did like, please tell your pals that it's worth catching in theaters.
Awesome, awesome. Well, hopefully on my end, this will help get some folks into seats as well. That's my main goal, is to fill those
Heck yeah.
theaters. So I sure appreciate your time, Miles. This has been fantastic. I love getting to pick your brain about this. So thank you so much for your time, man.
Yeah, this was a blast, Tim. Thanks so much, dude.
Awesome. Take care, and hopefully we'll get to do this again in the future.
Yeah, man, I hope so.